106 match wins at Wimbledon, a historic milestone, a record that officially surpassed Roger Federer. Now, for most athletes, this would invoke pure, unfiltered euphoria, a career-defining peak. Yet for a 39-year-old Novak Djokovic, it produced the exact opposite. Listen to this jarring contradiction. In his July 2026 press conference, just after defeating Roman Safiullin to reach his 9th consecutive Wimbledon quarterfinal, Djokovic didn't celebrate at all. He actually called the record insignificant. In fact, he openly admitted to having internal meltdowns on the court rather than feeling any joy. He was, literally in his own words, just surviving. Welcome back to Learning with Pratik. If you're new here, I try to increase neuroplasticity by exploring a new topic every day. I do all the reading and researching so you don't have to. Today we're deconstructing Novak Djokovic. We're going to look at exactly how a 39-year-old veteran continues to absolutely shatter global records. And it's not through sheer willpower alone. It is through a highly specific, almost surgical, physical and mental framework. Let's dive into this. Section 1. The Wimbledon contradiction. 106 wins and 0 excitement. So on paper, reaching a 9th consecutive quarterfinal is statistically staggering. But as we established, he describes his effort out there as merely surviving. Section 2. The Alcaraz rivalry. Pushed by a generational talent. You see, a massive part of the exhausting pressure driving this veteran is entirely external. When we look at the metrics, the sheer parity really stands out. They're sitting at a deadlocked 5-5 tour-level record. But if you look closer at the Grand Slam finals, Alcaraz actually leads 3-0 in those specific high-stakes matchups, including 2 on grass. And the ultimate external catalyst right now? Well, it's the recent 2026 Australian Open final. Alcaraz defeated Djokovic in 4 sets, which completely snapped Djokovic's historically perfect record in Australian Open finals. That loss acts like a constant looming force, pushing him to his absolute physical and mental limits. Which brings us to a really critical question. When you are 39 years old, facing off against 20-somethings in these grueling 4-hour marathons, how do you physically sustain this level of relentless competition? Section 3. The physical vessel. Diet and gear precision. To pull this off, Djokovic has engineered a hyper-specific, uncompromising discipline to maintain his body and his equipment. Let's look at his weapon of choice. Djokovic doesn't use a racket you can just buy off the shelf at a sporting goods store. He uses a pro stock racket, specifically the Head PT 346.1. These are highly customized frames developed exclusively for the pros. Djokovic's mold is actually based on the early 2000s liquid metal radical, and it is completely inaccessible to the general public. And this brilliantly illustrates the kind of microscopic precision we're talking about here. To save his elbow after surgery, he meticulously altered his specs. The new setup is exactly 8 grams lighter and 1/16 of an inch longer for stability. He also opened the string pattern up slightly to an 18x19 for a bit more spin, utilizing a highly specific hybrid string setup. We're talking Babolat Touch VS Natural Gut in the mains and Luxilon ALU Power in the crosses. These are tiny, highly deliberate changes designed to maximize his efficiency and minimize the physical toll on his aging joints. But look, the gear is really only half the equation. The other half is the fuel. Here's a breakdown of his rigorous daily diet, and it is an entirely plant-based and gluten-free foundation. He starts his day with just 2 tablespoons of honey and water, followed by gluten-free oatmeal. Then it's gluten-free pasta primavera for lunch and nutrient-dense kale with skin-on salmon fillets for dinner. This incredibly strict regimen is the non-negotiable baseline for his physical resilience out on the court. But how do you control the mind when the body is utterly exhausted and the pressure is historic? This is where the true battle is fought. His psychological engine. Section 4. The internal storm. Embracing the chaos. There's this prevalent myth out there that Djokovic is just a naturally calm, unbothered machine. That is entirely false. In a really famous 60 Minutes interview with John Wertheim, Djokovic laid it out so plainly. He said, "I might appear locked in, but trust me, there's a storm inside." He explicitly rejects traditional positive psychology. He doesn't pretend the fear isn't there, and he doesn't force optimistic thoughts. He openly admits to battling intense doubts and fears in every single match he plays. The MAC model, a non-traditional psychological approach. So if he isn't using traditional positive thinking, what exactly is he using? Sports psychologists point to the MAC model. This is a complete departure from your traditional cognitive behavioral therapy. Here's how this actually works mid-match. Step 1. Notice the negative thought without judgment. Step 2. Do not attempt to suppress or reframe it. Just let it exist. And Step 3. Return to the present moment and your value-based goals. By not actively fighting his own mind, Djokovic drastically reduces his cognitive load. He doesn't waste precious mental energy debating his own anxiety. And this is absolutely crucial, because it allows him to retain his working memory for the actual game. He needs that processing power to react to a 130-mile-per-hour serve, rather than dealing with a spiraling negative thought. The crucial takeaway here is his ability to not stay in negative emotions for too long. His true mental skill isn't the absence of fear, it's the acknowledgement of it. Sometimes that means he screams, or he has a total meltdown, or he smashes a racket into the grass. But he uses conscious breathing as an anchor to instantly reset. He completely accepts the chaos, and then he commits 100% to the very next point. Which leaves us with a really fascinating idea to ponder. Does traditional positive thinking actually hurt high-performance athletes compared to mindfulness and acceptance? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, especially if you have something particular in mind. Thanks for watching. Tomorrow we open a different page. Until then, Pratik out.